Welcome to the Mostly Pot Out Night. Mostly, I am Graveyard, joined by my co-host Salem.
Hello.
This is episode 103 of our weekly All Things Horde podcast. Finally, some goddamn peace and quiet. Not in a good way. In a world with monsters attracted to and apparently violent towards sounds of any kind, how would you survive? If you choose to try and keep your children quiet in the same world you've always lived in, you probably enjoy premise set up in A Quiet Place and its sequels. For the rest of us, maybe some soundproofing. So yes, we'll be covering Quiet Place 1, 2, and there will be spoilers ahead for Quiet Place Day 1. I think it's only been out, 2-ish weeks at time of recording?
Yeah, less than a month.
Yeah. So, like I said, spoilers ahead. We'll remind everyone again when we get to it, because there's spoilers, I guess, for a prequel.
Sure.
I mean, you know,
I really don't think there is, other than it happened in other places.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's really not spoiler. You can't spoil. I mean, you can spoil that movie, but you can't spoil the world.
Right. We'll call it Day 1 through 3. Because I think there was 2 nights on there.
There may have been more time in between. We don't know.
Yes.
Probably not.
Probably not. So let's start off with A Quiet Place. Came out in 2018. And partially written by John Krasinski from The Office, and kind of in that trend of comedic actors writing serious horror movies.
I think he directed it too.
He did.
Yeah.
He directed the second one. And then he helped write Day 1, but he did not direct it.
Right.
All right. So we start off with, I'm pretty sure it says day 87 or something like that.
It was 89.
89. We see people entering a drugstore barefoot and trying to be as quiet as humanly possible, looking for medicine for a kid, one of the kids. And, they're trying to be very quiet, and we don't know much about the world right now. Other than the oldest daughter is deaf, and they have a kid that's maybe 9, 10. I don't know.
I would say the deaf girl is 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, the boy is 9 or 10, and then they have a little one who's 4, who's actually stated to be 4.
Yeah. So they're just kind of ransacking, the drugstore and getting undetermined drugs for one of the kids. I don't know if they ever stated what he has, because
I think they were just looking for antibiotics.
Okay. So anyway, we meet the family, and little boy goes, wants this toy space shuttle, and they start to freak out. Like, okay, we gotta quickly take the batteries out of this thing. We don't know why. But the oldest daughter, she's says it's okay. She take the batteries out, but we see the little kid take the batteries, and they continue back towards their house, seeing that they're walking along a sand path barefoot, trying to make as little noise as possible. So they're just kind of going through, down the train track, and all of a sudden the 4-year-old kid, puts the batteries back into the space shuttle and starts making noise. Everyone starts freaking out. The dad, played by Jim, goes try chase after him, and boom, the kid gets killed.
Well, the kid gets snatched away. We don't actually see him die.
Well, I'm sure he's dead.
Well, I mean, he is dead. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
We don't see it happen.
So then we get, the kind of the title card of A Quiet Place. And then we fast forward about 390 days.
Yeah, I think it's 400, late 400s.
478.
Yeah.
And we get to see the Abbott family and their farmhouse, and they're just kind of going about their daily life. The wife, played by Emily Blunt, is very pregnant. We just kind of go and see what their kind of life is like, because let's face it, in these there's not a lot of dialogue, so we'll just have to go through the motions of describing what happens.
Well, they do speak with sign language.
Yeah, and that was a big thing, I guess, for this movie, was they actually hired a deaf actress to play a deaf person. And I think they all learned sign language for the movie.
Well, I'm sure they learned some. Sure.
Yeah. So, we're kind of going through their day-to-day lives, that they're trying to play, Monopoly with like felt things. Kid kind of just like knocks over a fire or a kerosene lamp, and dad like immediately puts it back, puts it out, which he was like prepared as shit for that.
Well, I think you have to be.
Yeah. And they're just trying to live their lives, eating fish that they're smoking, essentially, everything like that. So they realize they need to go get more supplies. So we get some defiant moments of the daughter trying to be an adult and live in this world. We see that the dad, Lee, is working on, I don't know what those are called. Do you? The implants they put for deaf people on the side of their head.
Oh, colliculars, or was it?
Yeah.
Cochlear implants.
Collicular or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's just trying to make one that works for her. And, he's like, hey, I'm, working on this. We get to see his workshop. We get to see, there's 3 of these things in the area, and he has news clippings. It's just kind of like an exposition dump board that is there. So anyway, she's like, hey, I want to go, tells him I want to go with you. It's like, no, you need to stay here and take care of your mom. I, got to take the boy to learn how to do this. Right. We do see, him lighting some fires at some point at night, kind of burning a little bit of the son's stuff on top of a silo full of corn, I believe. So anyway, he's, takes his son to, where the river is and the waterfall, and teach him how to fish, and tell him that it's okay to make noise by the waterfall, because it is nature sounds that you can do whatever you want. The creatures won't be able to hear you, because you'd be drowned out by the waterfall.
Right. And just for future reference, that is where the movie lost me. Like, at that point, I was just like, what?
Yes, the super sensitive aliens would not be able to tell the difference between a shout in the waterfall versus just the waterfall.
Oh, no, I get that. It's like, it's white noise drowns out the other noise. That's the point of white noise. I get the concept, but...
Oh, you mean just live there?
If you knew that, well, 1, why wouldn't you just live right there next to the waterfall? 2, why wouldn't you apply that to your existing home?
I mean, have constant waterfall noises?
Well, no, you can do anything. Yeah. Set up speakers around there that just spits out white static.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many options that you can do from that point, and he did nothing.
Which is funny, because
spent
he works
like an entire year putting sand pathways all the way around his entire property, like all the way into town.
And cameras.
Right.
And working on stereo equipment.
Cameras and stuff I get. Like that stuff's important. He had like an emergency alarm system that was lights and stuff. Like I get, like, I mean, that stuff is good, but the sand thing could have waited. The sand thing to me was a luxury. Why the hell would you not apply a thing you already know to keep your family safe?
Yes.
Like, you have a very, very pregnant wife. Like, the children, I mean, debatable whether they'll listen to you or not, but at least you can get them to control their volume.
Yeah.
in theory. A baby, you cannot. There's
Not
nothing you
for a
can do.
number of years. Correct.
So instead of like soundproofing their house, soundproofing a room in their house, or I mean, living near this, waterfall, or applying this concept of white noise to their existing home, they just don't do any of that, and then build a box to stuff the baby in when it cries.
Mm-hmm.
Like, fucking bizarre. Like they understood the concept for the box, but they just threw the rest of the concept out the window. I was very lost at this point.
Yeah. So anyway, so the kid starts freaking out a little bit, but whatever, and the wife, Evelyn, goes into labor. She's a couple weeks early, and she's trying to not bleed out, not make a sound, and tries to go down to take care of stuff, but she steps on a nail, dropping the picture frame, alluring the monster. There's this whole thing that she kind of tricks a little bit with an egg timer, and she eventually goes up into the bathtub, and the creature kind of just ignores her as she's kind of hiding and giving labor in the bathtub. Meanwhile, the son and Lee are heading back, and they see an old guy who just looks at them and screams. So,
well, I mean, his wife is dead.
Yes.
So they were surviving together. She died. He gave up.
Yep.
Wasn't for no reason.
Well, in front of other people, which is a dick move.
Well, it's bad that they came at that moment, but as long as you're moving away from him and not making noise, it wouldn't matter. It would actually benefit you.
So, anyway, while she's kind of, Evelyn tripped the alerts, for red lights. The daughter went away to go visit the son's Beau's grave, and so she's just, moody, angsty, preteen, does whatever she wants, thinks she knows better. So the mom doesn't know where the hell she is, and so Lee and his son eventually make it back to the farm, and it's nighttime, and they see the red lights around. Like, holy shit, everything's gone sideways. So Lee kind of starts trying to figure out what's going on there, looking for his wife. The son gets really scared, runs into a tractor tire, knocks himself out. Eventually, the daughter makes her way back, and she sees the lights, and she's trying to find what the hell's going on there. Finds the brother, and they climb up to the grain silo. Lee goes into the house looking and sees just some blood in the bathtub. Like, what the hell's going on there? Doesn't know what's going on. No, it's his wife. She was hidden in the shower and just puts a bloody handprint on the door. Like, yeah, I'm here. So they put the baby into the milk crate, I guess.
Well, they bring it at this point. Apparently, they soundproof their root cellar.
Yeah.
Which is done with a mattress.
Yes. And newspaper painted on the walls.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, he's like, all right, now they can talk because they're in the soundproof room. They're like, hey, it works. Phew. I didn't know if it was going to work or not. So it's like, no matter what, you got to protect them. He goes, okay. I don't know where they are. He goes, oh. And he kind of starts watching, goes into his surveillance room and kind of just sees what's going on there. Meanwhile, the kids are, fighting on top of the grain silo, and they kind of fall into the grain silo and start sinking in there. The chingiest doors I've ever seen just fall off.
Well, I think the part that upsets me is like, as soon as they touch the corn, they start sinking immediately. Right?
Yeah.
And then they bring down the metal door like a boat. that floats in this water grain, right?
Because you're able to disperse the weight.
Right.
The door.
Okay, that's fine. But now we know the physics of this grain silo, right?
Yep.
And then the monster comes in, and those physics change.
Because they're able to flip the door over their head.
Now they just lay
it.
down on the corn, and they don't sink at all.
Yep.
And then this giant monster jumps on top of the door that's on top of them, and they still don't move or sink at all.
Yes.
Which is like, okay, we just went through this whole like, hey, I'm dying because I'm sinking. Like this grain is like water that you drown in,
mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden now it's hard as a rock.
Yes. So anyway, while that's going on there, Leaf fails to notice a burst water main essentially flooding the root cellar, and the wife who just gave birth wakes up, and the baby's just kind of floating in his basket on the water, and a monster does get its way down there. Anyway, the kids escape because the house-made colloquial implant scares it and just rips a hole in the silo, and then boom, they're able to climb out of the silo on top of the corn, and then they're trying to find their way. They make a little bit of noise, get into the truck. Lee happens to see it. He's like, oh crap, they're not going to make it. So he was injured a little bit. We get the him telling his daughter, I love you, I've always loved you, because everyone thinks that she thinks that they blamed her for the son's death, so she doesn't feel like she's always welcome there. And then Lee screams, and the kids undo the parking brake and roll to the house. They go into the basement, and it takes a while for the daughter to realize that her implant is causing, essentially the daredevil creature alien, just too much noise, but this high pitched stuff makes it able to just go haywire with its armor on its head enough to get shot in the head. And they see a couple more racing towards them, cock the shotgun, and end the movie. So I'll go with my first thoughts and rewatches on this. I think for someone who I don't think was really known for writing anything and being more of a comedic actor, he did pretty well for his first foray into horror movies.
Well, he did a lot of movies like action and drama before that. I mean, the only comedy thing he's really done is The Office. I mean, yeah, that's the thing he's most known for.
Yeah.
But just about everything else he's done has been
because he
action
was
drama space.
Jack Ryan.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, he did.
He was also in that movie about Benghazi. The one where there was like the guys, the soldiers who had that last stand against the insurgents. I don't remember the story. It's based on a real story, but it's about a real military event that happened. I mean, it's obviously a fictional, retelling of that. But he was in that. Yeah, like I said, he was in a few action-y drama stuff like leading up to this. So the only thing I know that he did comedic was.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still surprising for what they expected from him. And I liked it on the first watch, and now going back and watching it a couple of times and scrutinize it definitely gets some demerits taken away from it. Is it a decent movie to watch? I think so. I'll probably continue to rewatch it no matter what. What was your first thoughts and rewatches on this?
I mean, I've seen it a couple times. I don't remember the first time I watched it, but yeah, I had the same reaction. It's a well-made movie. It's an enjoyable movie. I'm not going to say it's a bad movie, but it's one of those movies that if you think about it for too long, it's gone. Like your level of believability goes, straight down because it doesn't make sense. Like it makes sense if they didn't know those things up to that point. Then it would make sense, because again, they're in the middle of a fucking rural farmland, right?
Yeah.
Like, how would they know that? All they know is that this thing hunts them by sound. Don't make sound. Done. Right? That's it. That's the basic concept of the movie. But the fact that they understood that, different levels of sound or white noise, lets us talk. Like, okay, so why are you still in your house? Why are you still living? Why you're trying to live the same way you did before with children? One of them is deaf, and you're expecting them not to make noise? It's just, to me, it's just like you're putting your children in danger for no reason. Just go move by the fucking waterfall. Or, again, they've been there for over a year. You're telling me they couldn't have gone and found soundproofing and put it all over their fucking walls?
They are too busy finding this unlimited supply of sand, okay?
I'm just saying, but like, okay, maybe not the whole house. I mean, that soundproofing stuff would, it's a rural area. It'd be, hard-ish to find. But you could definitely do a room. I mean, which they did, right? Supposedly, they made this root cellar into one. I don't think I would have picked the root cellar in a barn for my soundproof room. I think I would have done the basement in the house that they already had set up.
What?
But I mean, again, it loses me at that point where it's like, okay, this, like, all these things. Why would you ignore them? It doesn't make sense to me. And again, like, how no one, well, this one's forgivable because we're only seeing this one family. Right. We do see that there's some other people alive because, he sets the fire on top of the silo, and we see a few other people set fires too. And they seem to like check in with each other on some schedule. We don't know. Right. But they are checking in. So there are other people around, but we only see this family. That's it. We don't see anyone else except for the old man that dies in the woods. Literally, that's the only other person that we see.
Yeah.
There's not even a scene with like people trying to steal their stuff, which they're almost always in a movie like this. There's nothing. It's just this family. So we get a lot of that because, again, if you're in the rural landlocked area, the likelihood of like the soldiers working their way to you is very low.
Not gonna happen.
Right. I mean, this, like, your population is way low. They're not going to waste their time yet. Eventually, maybe, if they get there. But right now, you're the last on the list, unfortunately.
Right.
And it just, if you don't think about it, it's great.
Yes.
The first time you watch it, it's good because you're not thinking too much about it. You're just like going, oh, okay, it's interesting. I mean, the more times you watch it, the more unbelievable it is. The more plot holes you find.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, it's just like, just outrageously like, again, like, once I found out my wife was pregnant, I would be like, okay, you're living in the waterfall now.
Yep.
Right? Like, why would you not do that?
Yeah.
Anyway. But yeah, this whole thing would have been, she wouldn't have to give birth, silently in a bathtub.
Right. Do you want to go first for your highlights?
I can, sure. I do like the concept. Like I said, I do like that it's like kind of like a rural, kind of area where I don't think we're told where it is.
We have a roundabout map somewhere, New York, Boston, New England area.
Okay. Well, regardless, yeah, it's basically, it's a rural area. They're living in a farmhouse. There's not a lot of other houses around. We see them off far in the distance, but again, this is definitely rural area. But it's like I said, it's small town stakes. It's just this one family.
Yeah.
We're just seeing how they're surviving. We don't see how other people are surviving. There doesn't seem to be any kind of like network or trading or anything like that set up that we see. right? So it's just you're basically just focused on this. So yeah, it is like a post-apocalyptic kind of world, but you're so focused on them that it really doesn't feel like that. It feels like just like a horror film.
Kind of like It Comes at Night.
Right. I would say, I mean, it is a good movie. I mean, it does draw you in, right?
Mhm.
Even though there's like no sound.
Mm-hmm.
Like when people are talking, it's like, you know, sign language, right? I mean, there's not a whole lot of sound
Mostly
other than like
hush whispers
ambient.
at most. Yeah.
Right. It's like ambient, like outdoor sound that you would hear in a rural area. That's
Mhm.
basically the soundtrack of the movie. But it's, and like I said, it's good even though that's all it is.
Yeah.
There's some great performances, even though they are, you know, unable to speak. I would say that, you know, like Krasinski and Emily Blunt did great acting, even though you can't talk, right? You have to like emote
Right.
all your emotions, right? You know, like with hand gestures and sign language and stuff like that. I think they did a fantastic job getting that stuff across. You know, even though they couldn't talk, even, you know, because obviously they both can talk.
Right.
You know, they're not that's that they're not limited to this normally.
Mm.
And I will say that the creature effects are pretty good. Like it is a scary looking creature and interesting enough to be alien, right?
Yeah. Assuming
So-
alien, we don't really know at this point in time.
No, again, we know that there's monsters. Lots of them came out of somewhere.
Right.
You know, again, but this is such a small picture. You know, yeah, we don't know where they came from. We don't know if they're killing people for food. We don't know if they're a weapon sent by another alien race to wipe us out or something. We don't know. We have no idea what they
Plum Island experiment gone around.
Right, yeah, we don't know. We have no idea what it is. But again,
Mm.
it's that small town stakes, right? We don't know it, but it doesn't matter because that's
Right.
not the story that we're being told here.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, I would like to know more. We really don't ever get any.
Not yet.
But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I guess we'll have to wait until at least number 4 to get more.
Yeah.
But again, they keep telling like these small kind of
Individual
vignettes. Yeah, it's like they're little, you know, like stories about small groups of people
Mm-hmm.
and like how they got there.
Yeah.
It's interesting. But that's it.
That's it. Now, granted, we kind of see the kid dying, but what a way to introduce the villain is killing a kid. I thought that was interesting. That doesn't. It obviously happens more now, but still pretty rare. I would say to do that in a movie, a horror movie at least.
Well, they'll be dead kids, but they'll be, again, they won't show them getting killed.
Right.
They will tell you that they're gone, but they won't show a murdered child on the screen.
Right. I mean, like the first death that we see is essentially the kid.
Right.
Which is a heck of introduction to the creature. I know we talked about this a lot, and you talked about it as well. You know, we always talk about like sometimes that silence is a character in itself, and this is kind of just taking that idea and just ramping it up to 11, right? Because it was more of a reverse effect of what you generally see. Like you go, okay, this movie is loud, this has all the stuff, and then like having a quiet moment in a movie, you know, makes you supposed to feel one way. But this is the use of sound is limited in the opposite contract. You know what I mean? Contrast. And I like that. I think it works well with this movie. You know, I like the use of the idea of the use of the white noise. Right? It makes sense that they would know to use these things. Now, we'll get into why they're wrong in how they use it in this movie. I still like it. And you don't really know much about the family, but god damn, they are prepared. Like, I don't know if I'd be able to make one of those reverse fish traps and put it into a river to survive. You know what I mean?
I mean, like primitive man used those, buddy.
Well,
I think you'd figure it out.
I'm sure I would, but I still like that they were kind of prepared ish to live their foolish lives the way they did.
Again, to be fair, we're seeing them 2 years into this.
Yeah.
So after 2 years, they figured out how to eat. That's not saying a whole lot. you know what I mean? If this was like day 20 and they had all this shit ready, okay, I'll give it to you. They were prepared. 2 years later, they're just surviving. I don't think they were prepared.
Yeah. But like I said, it's almost like they were meant for it. I'd say they did well, but I think they did okay for most people.
They're capable.
Yeah.
You can give them that they're capable, sure.
So, and you're right. You know, the emotion that Emily Blunt and Jim Krasinski are able to portray with that, I think works. Now, is it because they are husband and wife in real life? It's entirely possible. That's, you know, they just talked about how they would communicate if they didn't have to, if they couldn't talk to each other. I can see that. So I think that helps with the story. All right, I'll roll into my low points then. Kids. They're, you know, I understand that the daughter is supposed to be an angsty preteen and teenager that thinks that her parents will love her because she did give, you know, Bo the toy that eventually led to his death.
She didn't give him the toy.
Yeah, she did. She handed it to him.
No, he was pulling it off of the shelf.
Well, I'm saying after they took the batteries out and told him to leave it there, she gave it back to him and said essentially it's okay.
It is okay without batteries.
Well, yeah, but just throwing the battery somewhere. I don't know.
The kid is dumb for putting the batteries back in. But again, that's the problem is a 4-year-old doesn't understand the stakes.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can say, okay, no sound or something really bad's going to happen. Children by nature will push that boundary. Right?
Yeah.
They have to know what that means. And if they don't have any real, you know, solid idea of what that means, they're going to push it because they want something to play with or to see or whatever.
Right.
They're going to push it if they don't see a real consequence there. And obviously they hid the kid from the consequences. Why the hell that kid was there, I don't know.
No, I don't think the entire family should have gone for...
Right. I don't understand. Like, you bring the sick child with you?
Yeah, no.
Like, I don't know. Like, what? Well, how come... Okay, if we need this medicine for this kid to survive, how come, like, he didn't go there? I was originally thinking that maybe the only way it kind of makes sense to me is that Emily Blunt, or not her, herself, the character, was some kind of, like, medical person.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe she was like a doctor, a nurse, something to where she has medical knowledge. I don't think she was a doctor or even a nurse because it didn't seem like she knew that much, right? But she knew enough.
Yeah.
So I think she did something in the medical field to where she knew more about the medicine and stuff. And that's why she had to go. And the husband obviously didn't want to let her go alone. And again, that meant they couldn't leave the children at home. I mean, I think they probably could have.
Yes.
You know, but I mean, the problem there is the oldest is deaf.
Right. She doesn't know what sounds
in a world, in a world that you can't make noise. Yeah. So
she has no idea what her actions are doing.
Right.
Okay. Having a baby in the middle of this, like, if they would have said, "Oh, you know, she was pregnant and it was only day, let's say, 120 this is happening," being pregnant before the alien invasion, sure, I get that. It happens. Purposely having a baby in the middle of this shit, stupid as fuck.
Well, I don't think it was on purpose.
Well,
I mean, you're married. You understand how these things work, right?
yeah,
If you're in a world where you can't go to the grocery store to buy contraceptives, whatever they were using before is obviously not going to last forever. And there ain't nothing to do. There's no TV. You know what I mean? Like, what else are you going to do? If you want to have any intimacy with your wife at all, that's what you got.
I'm just saying it.
Oh, is it stupid? Yeah. But again, like, even if you wanted to get rid of the baby, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Throw her down the stairs? I mean, you know, again, they're not going to do that. Yeah, it's a risk, but again, there are things they could have done, and I guess they tried to. It was like too little, too late.
Yeah.
I don't understand why they waited so long. It should have been like the first thing they did, and again, why they did that way. It doesn't. Again, bizarre.
Yeah, they spent way too much time. You know, you saw how much sand they carried. That's a lot of days to carry all
Like I
that.
said, that
sand.
probably took him that entire time.
Yeah.
To do.
For what purpose? None.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're making less sound. I understand doing it around your little compound, you know? If you got to get to one place to another quickly and you don't want to make noise to attract him on your little farm compound, I get that. But like the sand went like all the way to town.
Yeah.
Which is like that again, that probably took him 2 years to do.
Right.
It's like, come on, dude. There's way better things you could have been doing with your time. Get some fucking soundproofing. If mattresses in this world are as soundproof as that, but get all the mattresses from all the towns you can find around you and put them all over the walls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something.
Time management was not well spent.
Right. Like, I mean, the dude's, yeah, he's like, you know, hunting and gathering essentially for his family. Like, that's not easy.
No.
Right. But again, once that you find out she's pregnant, the next steps have to be taken because that baby is not going to be quiet
For years.
Right. I mean,
years.
like you're not gonna be able to like fully get that child to understand not to speak until like, I mean, at their earliest, like 3.
Yeah. So at their 2, they're going to make all the noise they possibly can. I know. I have kids. They don't shut the fuck up.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like a 4-year-old was probably too early.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just in that world, not time well spent.
Yeah.
Okay. This bothers me with that nail in the stair. Okay, you don't put nails in stairs so they point up. You don't have it so they can stick out like that. Nails go down into other wood.
It's on my list too. I was like, why is it facing like, yeah, it's like hammered down and like it's something gets caught on it and pulls it up. But yeah, why is it up to begin with? Like that would be like putting like nails up on a floor.
Yeah.
Like you would never ever do that.
No, nails go down.
Right. Period.
The
time they go up is if you're on a roof.
Yeah. That's it. I'm just like, there's no way the nail should ever be there in that configuration. Period. And it just, yeah, it bothered me the first time, and I rewatched it, and I go, yeah, that is not how nails work on stairs at all. That bothered me a lot. Obviously the physics of the corn silo. Sometimes it's water, sometimes it's not. Maybe it's a non-Newtonian fluid. Sure. And I personally feel like the daughter was rebellious and angsty for no reason. Other than that's her character arc.
Well, I mean, again, it's like their kid died.
Yeah.
Right? That's rough. That's scary. You can't really properly grieve because you can't make any noise.
Right.
Now, the daughter's naturally going to, you know, drift away a little bit because she's going to feel responsible. You know, if she's not right, that's not the way it's going to be. The parents again have to detach a bit.
Yeah.
Right? So they're going to drift away for a little bit. So yeah, it's like, again, they've been trying to grieve while dealing with this crazy world for the last, year or plus, whatever it is. And they've obviously grown apart. And this is her way of trying to like force a confrontation, a conversation about what's going on.
Yeah.
And again, it's like, you got to realize, like, yeah, I'm sorry, but you're deaf, and that sucks. And in a normal world, it wouldn't matter, and you'll be just fine, right?
Yeah.
But in this world, it's a huge liability because you could knock something over and not know,
Right.
and then everything is coming down on us, and you don't know to get away. You don't know to warn people. You don't know anything. You're completely oblivious until you're dead.
Yep. Deus Machina collocular implant.
Well, again, why is she still wearing it?
It's never worked.
Right.
Ever.
Well, again, yeah, we find out in the second one. In this one, I'm just like, why is she wearing it at all?
Correct.
And in the second one, again, I'm also like, why is it even there? Like, what is the point of this thing?
There isn't one.
Right. Yeah, I was completely lost. And like, I was hoping that the second one would answer a question, and it did not.
Right. That's what I have. What are your low points?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, children are a liability, being deaf is a liability. No soundproofing, you get all the cameras, you braiding stuff all over the whiteboard, like basic, like they like sound. Like, I mean, come on, dude, you figured that out on day one. Why did you need to put it on the board? But again, it wasted time on a lot of stuff that he should have been doing, soundproofing or something that mattered instead of putting sand on the ground. The nail, the silo, I've already talked about those. Okay, now the axe at the end. Now we know that it's going off of sound.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand they're trying to have, the dad be the sacrificial lamb that saves his children. I get that. But the point when he decides to fight back is stupid. It doesn't make any sense. It's already moving away. And then it like, oh, the kids made noise, so, I have to make a noise back. So he makes the noise. And then instead of what he should have been doing, getting the fuck away from the noise and letting it chase the noise he just made, he decides to fight it with the axe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why? Why that means death. Why would you do that? Make a fucking noise. Run. Make another noise. Run. Make another. Like, again, lead it away from your children. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I get that you want to save your children, but like, killing yourself is not the way to save your children. Like, what if his plan failed and he got killed and it went right back to the kids, which is realistically what would have happened, because that fucking car, even though it's not running, still makes a shit ton of noise when it's rolling.
Yeah.
So it would have killed him and it went right for the kids and they would have been fucking dead too. I just don't understand that scene. I'm like, why is he like trying to stand his ground? That doesn't make any sense. And he dies immediately. He doesn't even get a hit in. And then, like, the way that it was presented to me, that she shoots it in the head, right? Mm-hmm. Like, no one has ever thought of that before. I was just, like, blown away. Like, yeah, I get that, like, the feedback made its little, like, ear holes open up. I understand that. But it does that all the time.
Yes.
When it stops to, like, check out the area, like, you're telling me no one ever tried shooting it there? Like, it's obviously fleshy stuff. Like, what?
It's almost like the military has ways to do ultrasonic waves. They knew that sound affected it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's, again, we're in rural town. So again, why the larger war has not gotten that far, we don't know. They could be concentrating in other places. Again, like, small town farmland where there's like maybe 10 people alive in a giant area, it's not a priority.
Right.
So again, we don't know why it hasn't gotten that far, but you'd think that they get more information than they have. Let's see. Yeah, it's fine. And then, like, again, I don't know how no one, like, he understands the concept of white noise and noise canceling out other noise, but then decides to do nothing with that information.
Yes.
And the only thing he does is talk to his son at the waterfall and then go home and watch his wife have to give birth silently because he decided not to implement a white noise generator.
With all his clearly radio knowledge of make his own cochlear implant.
Right. I'm just saying, like, I don't understand how he could waste all that time doing all that stuff and not experiment with sound.
Right.
Like, we know that they cue off of sound. Is there no way for you to use that offensively? Like, no one thought of that?
Yeah. Clearly not.
Yeah. But, yeah, anyway, that's all I got.
All right. So this week we are doing number of shushes out of 10 because there's lots of shushes throughout all these movies. I'll go first. Yes, there's obviously, there's a lot of suspension of disbelief and suspension of time management skills in this movie. I still think it's a pretty damn solid movie. I'm never disappointed watching it. So I will give this solid 8 shushes out of 10. How about you?
Again, probably the first time I watched it, I would have given it an 8. But the more and more I watch it, just the more and more huge plot holes I see. It just, again, not quite as bad as Shyamalan plot holes.
Oh.
At least these are I mean, reasonable arguments can be come up, I'm sure, but logically, no. But at this point, I've seen it as many times as I have. I'm down to a 6 shushes out of 10.
That's fair. So, all right, why don't you run us through A Quiet Place Part 2 from 2020?
Okay, Quiet Place Part 2 takes place literally right after the first film. So basically, we have Emily Blunt is new mom with tiny baby in a box that's soundproofed and has an oxygen tank to keep the baby alive when it's screaming, apparently. And the 2 kids are still alive. Dad is still dead. He does not come back. But we do get a kind of flashback in the very beginning to essentially day 1 of this happening, at least in their neck of the woods.
Yes.
So they're all at like a baseball game in small town America. It's, it looks like Main Street of any small town, Anyway, so they're all watching like this baseball game. They see a big, huge meteor thing falling out of the sky. And as soon as, they're all like, okay, we should go home. Like, this is not good. We should all go. They kind of go, they split up. The dad and the oldest girl, and then the mom and the boys are in their car, and we kind of see the fight, I guess, from both sides. So they're just trying to get out of town, and the monsters are essentially killing everybody making sound in the town. There's scenes of like them in the diner of like they're trying to make sure everybody's quiet. They still get killed and chased out of the diner. There's like car getting chased by a bus down the street where the big monster was driving the bus.
You know it.
Coming out of the window or whatever the hell it was doing. So anyway, so we got kind of an intro, right? So like we got to see the world as it was for them before everything went to shit.
Mm-hmm.
We also, in that little prequel thing, we get introduced to Cillian Murphy's character, who's like another dad in the town.
I'd say even best friend.
Yeah. Again, really a good friend. Obviously, someone who knows Jim's character well.
Yeah.
Right. So we get that to understand that this guy was once their friend, and they knew him from before. So we go back to this is after the whole confrontation in the first movie. Their home is essentially destroyed. So they're looking for somewhere else to go. They light the fire. They basically move towards the fire that's closest to them, looking for help. They go towards that fire. It is Cillian Murphy's little. He's living in like an old foundry, I guess. What is that? Like a
Smelting.
yeah, I don't know, whatever it is.
Well, I mean,
it's like
it
an old.
also had kilns too. So
Yeah, so it's like it looked like a steel plant.
Yeah.
or so, whatever it is. So they go there. He is like kind of watching them through like a scope on a rifle. He witnesses them using the new technique that they have, which is she hooks up her implant to an amp, which shoots the sound that stuns them and then makes all their little ear holes open up. And then mom shoots it in the head and kills it. So he witnesses that happen again. And then he decides at that point to save them. Now,
after the
will
kid
have a-
steps in the bear trap.
right. Yeah. The kid steps to it. But at this point, I will express my confusion as to how this amp is working. Because it doesn't have a power source. They show them cutting the power cable off.
Yes.
So, like, an amp without power does what?
Well, she plugged a microphone into it. Come on.
I'm just saying, like, okay, so I'm expected to believe that the tiny little battery from her implant somehow powers this amp to make screeching sounds.
Yes.
And again, she's still fucking wearing the implant.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the part again, what we alluded to earlier, is that, you know, when we show things from her perspective, it's completely silent, right? We don't hear any sound. So the implant isn't working. At this point in the first one, I was like, maybe it's just a habit for her to wear. Maybe it's a comfort thing, right? She had it on when she was younger. Now she wears it, you know, as she's older, as a comfort thing, something to remind her of what her life was. I get it in the first one. This one, they show the flashback of the world as normal, and they have a scene where we see it through her eyes, and she still can't hear.
Correct. So it never
like,
worked.
Okay, so why is she wearing the implant? Like, and she's still signing and everything. Like she could never hear. Okay, that's fine, but why the implants there if she could never hear? I'm just kind of lost on that part. I don't. Maybe I'm missing something. Obviously, I don't have them. I don't know anybody that has them. I can't like ask them questions, but I assumed it was like they hear. I know they don't hear quite the same as a normal ear does, because it's essentially like bypassing your ear and going straight into your brain.
Right. It's an external ear, essentially.
Right. I understand, like, the sound isn't as good. I think it's like tinny and kind of tone deaf, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least with the technology that they have now. This is just what I've read. I don't know for sure. I'm just, again, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's fine. But I from what I've read, it's bypassing your ear, so we don't get that, like, you know, what we, you know, normal ear people consider to be normal sound. I know that they don't get that, but they do hear, like, I mean, they hear. Again, it's just like poor quality sound. I'm sure as technology improves, that will get better. But as of like right now, the last thing that I've read about was it's just like a lower quality sound, like directly interfaced into your brain, bypassing your ear. So why is she wearing it if it doesn't work?
That's a great question.
Lost. I'm just lost. I'm just like, I was at that scene. I was just like, what? I'm like, I'm sure that cost a lot of fucking money for them to get, and it doesn't do anything. Like, what the hell is this? Then why the hell is she wearing it all the time? Again, I don't know. I'll have to have a conversation with the person who has them to like understand. Maybe they can give me a heads up on this movie and why it is the way it is. Maybe that's a reason. Maybe they talked to those people and this is what they told them it is. I don't know. I have no idea.
Right. She should not be wearing it if it doesn't work. I completely agree.
Again, that's the point I'm trying to make. But and in the prequel, it also didn't work. So that's where I got lost. And I'm just like, okay. Anyway, sorry. So we'll go back. Cillian Murphy brings him back into the foundry. They jump through like a smelting bell that has like melted through the floor, which leads them. It's like a slide into the basement.
Into a lot of sandbags.
Yeah, like, yeah, pillows or whatever the fuck it is. But, you know, so it makes little sound. So they go down to, this basement thing, and there's like a big furnace down there that if you go into and shut the door, like it's soundproof, nobody can hear you. So they go in there, they hide, they wait till all the rest of the monsters go away. When they come out, they start talking, and he's like, "Yeah, all these walls in here are made of like 3-foot concrete. Unless they're like right above us by a hole in the ceiling, like they're not going to hear us." So they're basically talking. He's basically like, "You guys got to get out of here. Like, bad news is here. Like, his wife died, like kind of sort of recently, like a couple of weeks ago."
His kid died like day one, essentially.
Yeah, his kid died a long time ago, and it was him and his wife. And then his wife just died a couple weeks ago, so he's not in a good spot. But he's like, you guys got to get out of here. Like, I can't help you. And so, she kind of shows him the baby, like, come on, man, it's a baby. Like, that's literally her whole argument. It's a baby. Like, you need to help me. There's a baby.
Lee would do this.
Right. So it's like, yeah. So, like, she kind of plays on his friendship, and he's like, okay, fine. So he lets them stay for the time being. I think he says like, "Oh, one day" or whatever. And we all know that's not. We all know that's going to stretch out.
Yeah.
So then we go there. They're listening to the radio, and they end up hearing a song on the radio. And the song is some convoluted fucking way. They figure out that this song is a code for there's people alive on this island
beyond the sea.
Yeah, right. Okay. I don't know. It's the song on repeat that they keep playing, and they figure out that this song must be leading them to a safe place to go, which is this island.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, okay. So they're like, she's like, yeah, we got to go do this. We got to go do this. And they're like, okay, well, let's fucking wait. Like, we got to get settled in here. We just literally almost fucking died, right? So let's like take a breath. And she refuses to take a breath, so she fucking leaves to go to this island by herself. Obviously they wake up and she's gone. She convinces Cillian Murphy to go after her. And then they basically have their separate adventure at this point. I'll just go with their adventure and note that I have to come back to this point to show you what happened with Emily Blunt and the two boys. So anyway, Cillian Murphy ends up meeting up with her after she has like a fight with the creature in a train, like a stopped train. She ends up convincing him that we need to go to this island and then we'll come back for everybody else because we're almost there. So he scopes out a boat. They go to get on the boat, and they're ambushed by, I'm going to call them cannibals. They don't call them cannibals. We don't see them eating people or anything. Not like wearing people's skins or anything like that. But I'm just going to call them cannibals because they look like
I would call them cult of the sound attracted aliens.
All right, yeah. So it's whatever it is. They're like they essentially like trap Cillian Murphy with like this trap that essentially if he moves he makes noise, which kills him. Right? It's like this fishing net with like bottles all over it.
Right.
So they decide they're gonna take the girl. Now, what they're going to do with her is not entirely like explained, but they're like checking her teeth and her muscles and shit. So again, this is why I'm saying like they're either taking her for eating or for breeding. Either way, it's not good. So they have a little fight. He ends up like trapping the bad guy with his net with bottles on it. He gets killed. Almost everybody gets killed because even though they're like living out in the wild here, they somehow forgot that sound will kill you, and they all start making fucking sounds like idiots. Anyway, and so the boat that they were going to take ends up getting a big monster on it who kind of knocks it away from the pier, and then it drifts out. And we also see that the monsters can't swim. This is the first this is the first kind of thing we see that they have. Their weakness is, aside from her magical distortion implant, is that they can't swim. So the one on the boat can't get off the boat because it's, it can't go in the water. And the ones that did go in the water are not coming back up and they're not moving. So they're dead. So they end up getting another boat and they get to the island. They meet up with Jiman Hansu, who is kind of like I don't think they have a leader, but he's kind of like a leader-ish person. He's the person that introduces them anything. Anyway. So they're basically like, yeah, it's all safe here. Like everybody's partying and having fun because we're on an island and they can't go in the water. And no, creatures landed on this island. So, we're safe. And somehow there's cars on the island.
Yeah.
I don't want to get that part, but whatever. There's no roads, but there's cars. So anyway, so they convince them to change the song that's playing into the distortion noise. That way, anyone that has a radio near them can use the radio to stun them and get away or kill them.
Yes.
They agree. So they're going to go to the radio tower. As they're going to the radio tower, they see the boat that had the monster on it washed up on shore, which means the monster is now on the island. They go back to warn everybody. Chaos ensues. People are dying. They get in the car and drive to the radio station. They get to the radio station. The monster is, of course, there already. And they have like a weird kind of cat and mouse game to where they have to get the girl with her implant into the recording booth to use the microphone to put on her implant. And then, Cillian Murphy kind of helps her in various ways to do that and surprisingly survives. I thought for sure he was going to die.
Yeah.
The first time I saw this, I thought for sure he's dead.
Oh, yeah.
And then even after I think I watched it the first time, like, is he dead? Because he like stops doing stuff after a while. And then she's just like, kind of doing like a one-on-one against the monster when she makes the sound. I'm like, is he supposed to be dead? And then they show him afterwards. Like, oh, I guess he's not. Okay. But yeah, it's a little ambiguous there for a minute. Anyway, so she makes the sound, stuns the thing, they shoot it, it's dead. And then, basically opens up the way for other people to be saved.
Well, because plot B.
Well, yeah, and then we go back to, those two are gone. So we have Emily Blunt, the older son, and the babe. Now, this is the part where I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Anyway, so the kid had gotten attacked by a bear trap. So his leg is injured. He can't move, right? Apparently, this also goes more towards maybe she had a job in the medical field because she knows that it's infected. And it's not infected to the point where he's even sick yet, but she knows that she needs to go get antibiotics or else he will be.
Also, more oxygen tanks for the baby.
Right. Yeah, it's a dual thing. Now, here's the thing that's fucked up. She's walking out the door without even telling him that she's leaving.
Yep.
And so he comes up like, oh, where are you going? She's like, oh, I'm going to get some medicine and some oxygen tanks. He's like, I can't leave me here by myself with a baby. Rightfully so. Yes, 10-year-old boy.
And she's like, no, you got it.
Yeah, she's like, oh, you got it, right? Yeah, we've been through the drills. You know what to do. We're fine. We're fine. I'm like, what? Like, I get that, this is probably the best option is you go by yourself. You can do it quickly. You know what you're looking for. But like doing that without telling the kid that he's in charge of the baby? Like, what kind of fucking death wish do you have? Anyway, so of course, as she goes to the pharmacy, I believe it's the same pharmacy from the first one.
Yeah.
Anyway, she finds some antibiotics. She finds some oxygen tanks. She's heading back, and of course, he gets attacked because the kid can't sit still and is looking around the place, looking to see if he can see her from like the roof or whatever. And he ends up finding the dead wife of Cillian Murphy, who's still there, just laying on a bed in like a hidden area where they didn't go to before. So he like screams and knocks shit over, and then the monsters come in, and he basically goes down, grabs the baby, goes in the furnace, but forgets to put down the towel to stop it from locking and gets locked into the furnace.
Yes.
And then he basically, him and the baby share the last bottle of oxygen because this is another unrealistic thing. Like the air in the furnace only lasts for what, like 30 seconds?
They have a stopwatch.
Yeah, they have a stopwatch and it lasts for like 30 seconds. Like, I don't think that's true.
What?
I mean, I know it's not going to last for that long, but I'm pretty sure like it was big enough to fit multiple people in there. Like, you have at least a few hours.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Unrealistic time frame in the furnace, but whatever. That doesn't really matter. So anyway, so of course the mom comes back and saves the boy at the last second.
Well, because she uses one of the oxygen tanks to try to blow it up.
Yeah, she blows up the oxygen tank and sets the thing on fire, and it's apparently immune to fire. So, lesson learned. Okay, we've got the antibiotics, we got the oxygen. I don't know what the hell happens next.
Well, the thing's still not dead. They both go into the kiln essentially, and it's attacking them. And he's listening to the radio station, waiting for.
Okay. Right. Yeah. So they're like basically like trying to hope beyond hope that the girl gets to the radio station. I don't know if I guess they assumed that she was going to put the sound over the radio, but
yeah,
I don't know what time frame they were expecting. But of course, in movie world, all things happen at the same time. So that happens at the time when the alien's just about to get in the furnace. And then the sound stops it, and then they shoot it, and then everybody saves it.
Yes.
And that's it. We don't know if any cannibals survived.
I'm assuming not.
But yeah, so other than that, so so we got the people on the island. We don't know how many people survived there, but apparently it's like a safe haven.
Yeah.
And apparently they're going to go there. But we don't know what happens to them because the next movie completely ignores them. So
what?
That's it. End of the movie.
Yes. So what were your initial thoughts then on this movie?
I mean, again, it's just the same stuff. You know, again, I was, even in the first time I watched it, I'm like, I'm pretty sure they would have more air than that. You know, it was just, I don't know, it was bizarre. Like, why wouldn't there be a permanent thing holding the lock open on that thing? You know what I mean? Knowing the danger of potentially locking yourself in, why would you just let a fucking towel,
especially
be your
if
life
you're
and
the
death?
Only one that's there?
Right. Like, why would you let a towel be your life and death? Like, I'm sure you, even with the towel, you can make a permanent fucking thing where it's not ever going to be able to lock. But I don't know. I don't know. Maybe put a rope on the inside to hold it closed. I don't fucking know. But better ways than that.
Than a rag on a stick. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. No, and again, I was always confused on how the amp worked without power, because they make a point of showing you that she cuts the power cord off. So it's not even like, oh, maybe it's plugged into some little battery thing that they have. No, they show her cutting it off and then purposely not doing anything with the plug, just leaving it off. Like, it won't do anything with power. Like, do you not know how electrical devices work? Like, this is electrical appliance 101. Like, if you have a blender and you cut off the power cord, it will not blend. It just won't. So yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, obviously, kids age, so there's a lot, I would say a lot more faults in this movie than the first one.
Well, this one is more of a, they're in a rush. Like, this movie only takes place over like 2 days.
Yeah.
Right? So like, we're not in a place that they were supposedly preparing for 2 years. this is a place that they're just doing the best they can for 2 days. So the most of the stuff that happens is explained because they've only been there for 2 days. You know, they were running away from a dangerous thing. They didn't have time to grab all the good stuff. You know, like this, they're on their way trying to do something. They were trying to get to somewhere safe. The daughter thinks she has a way to make the world better.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, again, saying, hey, take a fucking breath for a minute. And she, again, does her angsty thing and leaves. And
Yep. Yeah.
so, again, yeah, they get separated because obviously the kid with the broken leg and the fucking baby are not going to be able to chase after her. So it ends up in a realistic place, even though there's unrealistic things happening. I understand why they go the way they did.
Yeah. But I don't think this was as good. I mean, for sure. You want me to do my highlights first this time?
Sure.
Okay. I do like the fact that they were using, you know, the smelting factory essentially as a place to hide. Like, that was a damn smart move.
Well, yeah, anything with like extremely thick concrete walls, because as we all know, concrete is great at soundproofing if you have enough of it.
More so than
If you've ever lived in an
wood
apartment
barn,
with concrete
yes.
walls, yeah.
Yeah. I like the fact that he knew to use the furnace as we do, but we'll get into this. You know, we already talked about why that was a stupid thing that other than having a rack. I like the unknownness of the maybe cannibalistic alien worshipping weird tribe that existed that just had a little girl there to lure people in.
I didn't get the vibe that they worship the things at all. I got the vibe that they were just out there surviving.
But it was I like the fact that it's there with like zero explanation.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, we have no idea who they are.
Right.
They're just there.
For all we know, they're part of Nightbreed. Don't know.
Right. Like I said, the only thing that we do know is that they were not interested in Cillian Murphy at all.
Right.
And they were very interested in a young girl, and they were like checking her teeth and her muscles, which again means only two things: are you going to eat or breed? You know, that's the only time you check like the fitness of someone that you're going to kidnap.
Oh man, they were biomechanic, organic mechanic.
Yeah,
she's cleaning. Yeah, it was interesting. There's cars and houses on this random ass island.
Right, like I said, there was more than one car, and there's no roads. Which I was like, why and how did that happen?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe a ferry. Maybe they took a ferry there and they drove the cars off the ferry, but I don't know. I have no idea. It doesn't make sense. But
yeah.
They needed a car for the movie, so they had to put it.
Right. Obviously the creatures can't swim, which you'd always argue, why would they go to Earth? We don't know.
Well,
but
there's another small thing. This is a small I don't bring it up because it's not a huge thing, and I know it can easily be explained away. In the first movie, when the alien is in the root cellar, and the root cellar is like filled up a lot with
it
water,
submerges
right?
itself.
Several feet of water. It submerges itself, but it does so very like majestically.
Yes.
It does so as if it's a creature that knows water.
Yep.
And knows how to swim underwater.
Yep.
Right? I'm not like crazy in thinking that the way that it just went like it just slipped under the water like it's a professional, you know? And then in the second one, all of a sudden they can't swim at all. And I was like, that doesn't feel right to me. You know, because like they clearly showed it swimming in the first one. And it didn't seem to be bothered by water because it was underwater for a while.
Maybe it only feels safe if we can touch the ground and have its head above water.
Right. And then we get to like day one, a slight spoiler here, I guess. One is underwater and it dies within like 15 seconds of being submerged.
Yep.
Right? I mean, like just dead.
Yep.
Immediately. So it's like there's like a progression of how familiar it is with water. The first one does not seem to be bothered by water at all. In fact, it seems to be at home in the water. Second one can't swim. As soon as they touch water, they sink and die and drown. third one, it's like immediate death.
Yeah. Yeah. But I will give this movie credit because usually when you get into this mystery unknown world, you do the second one and they just spoil everything with the lore of the creatures. And I think it does good at holding it back. We're always concerned about stuff like that.
Well, it spoiled absolutely nothing.
Correct.
We know exactly as much as we did at the end of the first movie as we do at the end of the second.
Other than it doesn't like deep water.
Yeah, again, other than the water thing, which again felt like it was just added for that movie.
Yes. So I
think it was just added. Be like, how would we make a safe place against aliens?
Right.
And for some reason, I don't know. Krasinski must be against like white noise generators or something. I don't know. I could have easily done the same thing with the white noise generation ring around a town.
Yeah.
But they went with the island water thing. So
right.
Okay.
Well, like I said, it didn't just ruin the creatures with just overabundance of lore. So I do appreciate that. Those are my highlights. What are your highlights?
My highlights is I like the day one kind of flashback. That was kind of fun, because we at least got to see Krasinski in the movie again. Right? Because otherwise he would have just been dead. Like if they started at the point at the end of the first one, he was just dead. So he gets to be in the movie for a few minutes. So that was fun. But I mean, it was nice to see that they're definitely in a small town. They kind of introduced, Cillian Murphy. It's better that they introduced him that way instead of just meeting up with him later, being like, "Hey, weren't you Lee's friend?" Like that would have sucked.
Yeah.
As an introduction for his character, but like at least we got to see him before, and that was, again, I thought that the day one was fun. It was done well. I thought that was a high point. I will say Cillian Murphy and Emily Blunt did a great job with their acting again. Kids are kids, whatever. They weren't like offensively bad, but they're kids. Okay, but Cillian Murphy and Emily Blunt did fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Emily Blunt, I don't think did as well as she did in the first one, but she was still also good. The creature effects are also still good in this one. They didn't drop in quality. I think it appears they had like the same people because it looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
So that was good. I thought so. And okay, when I was watching this, and like I'm looking at the cannibal people,
mm-hmm.
and like the head cannibal dude that throws the net over Cillian Murphy is sitting there staring at him. I'm like, that guy looks like a cannibal Scoot McNairy. And I watched the credits. It fucking was Scoot McNairy. I was like, get out of town. So yeah, Scoot McNairy is in this movie as the cannibal guy for like a whole 5 minutes.
I know him.
I don't know. He's in a lot of stuff that I like. He was in Halt to Catch Fire. He was in he's like a smaller guy, usually has glasses. He's been in a lot of stuff. Anyway, it was him. I was very excited to see him, even though he was only in it for a minute and he really didn't talk much.
Right.
Obviously.
He screamed.
Yeah, that was about it. When he gets stabbed in the leg, that was like the only thing he did. But yeah, that was it. Okay, and then I guess I'll go into my lows here. I've already, I think, said most of these. But, yeah. Okay. So yeah, again, the implant doesn't fucking work. I don't understand what it was supposed to be doing in the first place. I don't know. Maybe there's like, yeah, I need somebody with an implant to explain how these things are. If this is an accurate depiction of how these things work or not, I don't know. I don't know enough about them. Again, Emily Blunt leaving a 12-year-old kid without even telling him that she's leaving. Like, I don't understand the thought process there, but okay, we're already past that. Yeah, the cannibals, like, I mean, I don't understand what they were doing. Like, again, that's why I'm saying they had to be cannibals, because they purposely like captured them.
Yes.
Right? Like, why else would they be capturing them other than they like to eat them? Because they obviously didn't have any stuff. Like, they can't rob them. They didn't have anything. So, like, you know, if they had a boat or a car or something, I could see robbing them because you want the shit that they have. But no, they were on foot and they had nothing. So, I don't understand what they were doing other than getting food. But then, if they're getting food, why would they purposely avoid killing Murphy unless they're like super creepy cannibals that only eat like children or something? I don't.
Possible.
But I wouldn't think you could be that picky. In like a post-apocalyptic situation, you can't really be that picky on who you're eating if you have that many mouths to feed. Because there was like, I don't know, a good like 12, 15 of them.
Oh, yeah.
There was a bunch. So, like, I mean, that's a lot of mouths to feed. So, like, even one person is only going to last a couple of days. I don't know. I was confused about what their end goal was there. And then again, what I already talked about with the whole, it looks like it swam just fine in the first one. Like it just kind of like dipped like majestically under the water like a fucking seal. And then in the second one, all of a sudden they're like they die immediately when they hit water. So I don't know. I think they just added that for the second one.
Yes, I agree.
But whatever, that's all I got. What do you got?
Kids. Again, I still like your teenage angst rebellion. So what's weird to me is I would not consider fire to be an ambient noise.
Never been to a bonfire?
I'm saying a sudden fire.
Well, I mean, a sudden fire just as big as a bonfire.
but I'm saying, like, if there's other things that are just could be natural noises other than waterfall, I think lighting a fire would count as a noise to attract the creatures.
In theory, depends on how big it is.
But you know what I mean?
Which fire are you talking about?
The one they light on top of the silo. You know, I don't, know if she thinks that she's going to put her earpiece to the radio station and just carry on a radio and go around the country and just save the world that way.
Well, also, I mean, the radio station that was on that island, I mean, radio stations don't go that far.
And the only reason they got it because they were in the valley. Yeah, so what, 2-day hike? No.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the logistics of it because I don't know where they are or what they were. Or, I mean, I understand it's going to help a lot of people regardless.
Yeah.
But that's if they're looking for radio. But, like, after 2 years of nothing, who's going to be randomly turning on the radio and checking?
Considering you don't want to make noise, nobody.
Right. I'm saying no one is going to be using a radio at all because nothing has been on the radio for 2 years. Why would they be looking?
Right.
And like you said, turning on the radio is making noise. I mean, you could have headphones on, but
yeah.
I'm just saying, like, I mean, I would say, like, if I was in that situation, I would probably check if I had the power to do so. I would probably check like once a month or so.
Yeah.
You know, just to cycle through everything. But again, like, it's, that's going to take a long time to help people in that small area.
Better time management than sand everywhere.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So this bothers me a bit because you know how quickly train tracks, when not in use, have weeds and overgrowth in them? Almost immediately, right? You can tell these are working train tracks because there's still no plants growing along the train tracks.
Yeah, well, I mean, for all we know, maybe they are.
Right. But I'm just saying, it's just like a weird thing that, like, train tracks are safe, especially where we live, because there's grass everywhere around the track and in the track.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. I mean, it's still within a couple of years. I mean, it's not like an unforgivable, like, it's been 20 years, but their tracks are fine.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Once again, as you pointed out, the deaf girl who doesn't know if she's making a sound going to do things by herself, not knowing whether she makes a sound or not.
Right.
Stupid.
And again, exactly what you think is going to happen happens. She knocks something over, doesn't realize she made sound, and a thing is sneaking up behind her, and she has no idea.
Right.
Even though it's making big fucking sounds. Again, I'm not saying that she shouldn't be out there doing stuff, but she should not be out there alone, and she should know that.
Well, I also think she'd feel that thud from that creature too.
Well, I think that's why she finally turned around.
I'm gonna show this now. This is the random, let's say, shower thought of the day for this episode. My God, no one coughs, sneezes, or farts in this world, because if they had normal bodily function, they'd all be dead.
Well, I mean, again, it's inconsistent as to what level of sound is needed.
Right.
Right? Because, like, realistically, okay, like, go back to the first one here. Realistically, if you make, if you knock over a lamp in your house, right? How far is that sound going to travel?
20 feet.
Right. But I mean, like, your neighbor, unless it's like broken near an open window.
Yeah.
Your neighbor would not hear it.
Correct.
And that's not that far away. So again, like, sound, I understand they could have like supersonic
but
hearing,
they have to have it open at all times to be able to hear that.
Right. But like a dog would be able to hear it like a good distance away. Right? But not like, that's what I'm saying. Like, if they were chasing a sound that small from, I mean, how far away do you think it probably was when it happened?
A mile.
Right. I mean, like, how you base it on how long did it take it to get to their house after the sound happened?
Oh, like 10 seconds.
Right. But like, at the speed that it runs is like, okay, so it was hanging out in the area. Again, it's inconsistent as to how loud it has to be or where they are. Because like, if they're that sensitive and you're in the same room as it and breathing, it will fucking know where
it's going to hear your fucking heartbeat.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, that we cannot literally make ourselves that like silent.
No.
Our bodies, it's impossible to happen. So like, if something with that level of supersonic hearing is in the room with you, it will know where you are
easily.
Yeah, like you said, your heart will sound like a ticking fucking clock to them.
Yeah.
It'll know exactly where you are.
Yes.
You're breathing, you're sweating, you're moving. I mean, any sound that you're making, it will know.
Considering there's animals on this planet that can do that.
Right. That's as I'm saying. Like a dog.
Yeah.
A dog has really good hearing, right? A dog can hear shit a hell of a lot farther away than you can.
Yep.
But like, it's not unlimited.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, it's very inconsistent as to like, oh, there's supersonic hearing, but in the same room you can trick it by not moving like it's a fucking T-Rex.
Right.
Like, it's not movement, it's sound.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, in this world, people have anxiety diarrhea. They're dead.
Right.
I'm just saying that, yeah. The inconsistency of plot device sound, essentially what it comes down to. All right. That being said, how many shushes out of 10 do you give this?
Again, I don't think it's bad, but I don't know. I would say it's probably, there's interesting things about it, but there's also things that I like less than the other one. I think they even out though. So this one I think is another 6.
Another 6?
6 shushes out of 10.
Yeah, I don't like this one as much, so I will go down to 7.5 shushes out of 10. All right. So, A Quiet Place Day 1. Spoilers ahead, so pause this here. Go watch the movie if you don't want it to be spoiled, and then come back.
Yeah, or not.
Or not. Listen to it, get spoiled. We don't care.
Right. So, yeah, essentially we get a lady Lupita Nyong'o, who we know from Us. She has some form of I don't think they say what disease
Cancer.
she has. Well, I don't know. It says I don't know. They don't say that though. And she says that every fiber of her being is hurting. Right? Cancer is usually like centralized in certain
And this
locations.
is like blood cancer.
Yeah, whatever. She has some terminal disease.
She's in hospice. Let's just
yeah, she's in hospice. She's in the end game of a terminal disease. Like it's almost here, right? Like it's any day now.
Yeah.
And she has a service like cat, I guess an emotional support cat named Frodo. Now essentially, she's not dealing well. Obviously, I mean, I don't think anybody fucking would be, right? You're still young-ish and dying from a terminal disease. There's nothing you can do because you're in hospice, which means there's nothing left to do.
You're there to die.
Except for die, right. So they're like, hey, we're gonna go to a show, you want to come with? And he's like, oh, it's in the city. I know you like going to the city. He's like, how long has it been since you went to the city? And she's like, well, last time I went to the city was supposed to be my last time going to the city. So, sure. But I'll go if we can go get pizza. Like real pizza. Because they're going to New York City.
Yeah.
Which we all know is not real pizza.
Correct.
It's that floppy, greasy pizza. It's not.
Oh, it's got the special water.
I know I'm going to start a pizza. But hey, I'm from Chicago. That's what I say. So anyway, they all get on a bus and they go to the show, and oh no, it's a puppet show. I guess she thought it was going to be a play or something. She got tricked. So they go see this fucking puppet show, which she leaves, early because it's a puppet show. So she's like, she goes to like the corner store, buys like some candy or something, and then is coming back. And when she comes back, the head nurse guy is like, yeah, we got to all pack up, get in the bus, we got to go back. And she's like, we're getting pizza, right? He's like, nope. Like bad stuff is happening, we got to get back like right now. And she's like, oh, what kind of bad stuff? They're like, oh, everybody get on the bus, we got to go. So they all get on the bus and they're starting to go, and then everybody starts looking out the window and they start seeing like essentially fucking meteors
like
coming out of the sky
to New York, like 50.
Yeah, a lot. And you can only see they're looking between two skyscrapers, right? And we see a lot in that little section of sky. If we saw the whole sky, it probably would have been a hell of a lot more. So they're like, oh, what's going on? We essentially get like a 9/11 montage of like, explosions and dust everywhere and people walking around confused and don't know what's going on. We get a couple of flashes of monsters attacking sound, but she's not making any sound. She's just kind of stunned at this point. And essentially, she makes her way back to the theater, the marionette theater, and everybody else is there. Like the head nurse guy, some of the other hospice people, and her cat are all there. So they're all kind of like huddled up. They, at this point, are figuring out it's some kind of monsters that are attacking sound. So they know to be quiet. And, they're like helicopters are going by with like loudspeakers saying like, they attack sound, everybody be quiet, shelter in place, whatever. And then the next day, more helicopters come and they're like, they don't like water. They figured this out already. It's day 2. They already know they don't
like
the
water. Bridges.
Right. Yeah. So they're like, they don't like water. So we're going to get all these boats at the pier, whatever.
South Shore
get
Pier.
To the boats. Yeah. We'll get to the boats and we'll evacuate you. But yeah, they blow all the bridges. I don't know why, because I'm assuming they were landing on the other, like the regular side of New York too. But
sure. I figure they're just like in Manhattan in that area. That's only bridge accessible.
Well, I would say at this point, seeing what they're doing and knowing how many are in the rural area versus how many are in the urban area, I'm going to say that they got launched to where the population centers.
Yeah.
So I would say the higher the population, the more that they got, which is why there's so many in New York.
Yeah.
But anyway, at this point in time, I guess it's assumed that, Manhattan is overrun. And so they're going to bomb the bridges in hopes of saving the rest of the state or whatever.
Right.
Or the other boroughs. So, her being a kind of terminal cancer patient, her last wish is to have this fucking New York pizza, right? This is what she wants, Right. She's gonna go to Harlem, go to her favorite pizza place, and that's it. Like everybody else can go. You guys go evacuate. I'm gonna go get some fucking pizza.
Yeah.
So there's a scene where the fucking cat basically gets them attacked, but they survived. And there's a scene where the head nurse guy gets killed because he has to shut off the generator that kicks on when the power goes out.
Alex Wolff.
Yeah, so he gets killed, and then at this point she's basically all alone, and she's just like, yeah, whatever, I'm just gonna go get pizza by myself.
Yep.
So she's like walking down the street, and she ends up seeing basically attacks and shit are happening. So she hides in this alleyway.
It's because everyone that survived the initial attacks walking back to the boat after being announced overhead, and then you have how many thousands of people there, and someone makes noise and secondary attack.
Well, I mean, again, when you have 1,000 people walking, it doesn't matter how quiet you're trying to be.
No.
In essence, 1,000 people walking quietly is a loud noise. Like, I don't know what the fuck these people are thinking, why this was a good idea.
Well, considering people, it only takes a handful of people to march on the bridge and disrupt its sound waves to destroy it structurally. Yeah, they're coughing, sneezing, wheelchair people were there.
Right, yeah. She recognized that all these sounds are going to cause problems. So she makes her, distance. She did meet a couple of kids, I guess, that kind of showed her, that the white noise thing is possible. I don't think she takes any lessons from that. But basically they're following the same white noise principle as they're hiding in a fountain, so that, anyway, she gives them a candy bar and they go off with the people and probably die. We don't know. We
never
don't
see them, so I'm assuming dead.
Yeah, so whatever. She says go with them, and they go, and then she goes the other way. Goes in the alley. And then we're introduced to another character who I guess comes up gasping for breath out of the subway, which has completely filled with water.
And doesn't immediately die.
Yeah, and well, again, he does come up into the smorgasbord of people getting murdered.
That's true.
So I guess his gulping for air is smaller sound than people screaming their child's name in the middle of the street. Like a fucking idiot. Jonathan! What are you thinking, lady? Anyway, so Frodo the cat, who has been missing at this because he ran away when the attack started happening, finds this drowned guy and then leads him back to Sam, her name is, I believe. And then they start to become reluctant pals because he's basically in shock. And she's like, I'm going to go get pizza. You should go to the dock. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to go get pizza. And he just follows him. And she's trying to get rid of him in as many ways as she can. And she can't. And so she's like, whatever, you just come with me. So they go to her house. I guess she was in Harlem. She lived by the pizza place. So they go to her house first. It's during a rainstorm, so they can actually talk under the rain.
Imagine that.
Yeah, and so they kick her door down in time with thunder. And they have a night of kind of talking, and we get a little background information. Now, she was a poet, and he was a law student from England. So he has no family or anything because they're in England, and obviously he can't get there. And she had her dad, and her dad is dead. And that's it. So she is dying. She just wants this fucking pizza. She wants to go, this place that her and her dad went together. That's their last kind of wish, and she wants to do that. But she's out of meds, so she wanted to go to her house to find if she had any meds left to make her feel good enough to get there. Basically, they spend the night there. They wake up, the rain is gone, and they just, she tries to leave him there.
Yeah.
And of course he follows her anyway. So they basically, decide, okay, we're just gonna go to this fucking pizza place. So adventures happen. They end up in the subway again, which gets flooded, and they have to like go through the subway and then go through a flooded subway again, which of course makes the dude have panic attacks. Rightfully so, because he almost died the last time this happened. The poor cat is also dragged underwater
and lives
through this thing. Yeah, and lives. But so we also get to see, like, seriously, the monster heard them making noise, chased them, and then as soon as it touched water, like literally within like 10 seconds, it was dead.
He goes, "Oh, my toe
literally
touched
stopped
water.
moving,
I'm dead."
Right, like it reached for them like twice under the water, and then literally just curled up and died.
Well, I was thinking about that on the drive home, right? I go, okay, maybe it touched the third rail. They'd all be dead.
Well, again, I hate when people like do that, because like, yes, electricity will travel through water, but if it's such a huge amount of water, like that won't work. It doesn't work that way. Like there's too much water, and like it dissipates. I mean, yes, there's a threshold. I don't know what that threshold is. I'm not a fucking physicist.
Well, you know what I mean? Like,
there's a threshold, but like if you're in a pool and water and like an electricity line falls in the pool, there's a lot of water.
Yeah.
There's a good chance you're not going to feel it at all.
But I mean, that was my initial thought. I'm like, no, it just goes, I'm in water. I don't know what to do.
Right. Which is, again, a direct conflict with the first movie, which shows it underwater for at least that long.
Yes.
And it was fine. It was totally fine.
Yes.
Again, it's like, as the movies are going along, their lifespan underwater gets shorter. So anyway, yeah, they make it out of there with the poor wet cat. And they get to a church, like literally the hole that they climbed out of goes into a church. Oddly enough, they don't communicate with anyone else in the church, even though they show other people.
Yeah, they just go,
but they never talk to any of them. Yeah, they never talk to any of them. They're just there. There's literally background characters. So she at this point is like suffering badly, like not doing well, like deteriorating. So he asks, "Well, what meds do you need?" He goes to the drugstore to get the meds. Frodo the cat ends up following him there
because the cat knows all.
Right. So they get the meds and he's coming back, and then the cat is like licking this weird shit off the ground and then off the walls, and then like goes into this like big crater area. And this is really the only I guess kind of like lore entry we get from this whole film, other than they're allergic to water, and that keeps accelerating. Maybe the East Coast ones are more reactive to water. I don't know. But anyway, so they see like these big, like, I don't know, they look like pumpkins.
Let's call them
right.
Let's call them pumpkin potential facehugger eggs.
Yeah, like they're like pink pumpkins, and like, okay, I'm like, okay, this is like their eggs. This is how they're breeding.
Nope,
right?
They eat it.
No, they stick their hand in it, they rip it open, and then they start like licking it, and then they like do this like call, like, and then more of them come over and start like lapping it up. It's just like full of like goo.
Soup's on.
Yeah, so like this is their food. So that means if this is their food, that again puts us towards, one, this food was sent there for them, because obviously it's not human in origin, right?
Would you call that a crater impact, like where they landed?
Yeah. I would say they got sent down, and then those things got sent down after or with them.
Right.
But again, that would lead me to believe if they're not here to eat us for food and just to kill us, and they eat other stuff, that means that they're here to like just kill us and limit our, get our numbers down, or whatever they're doing,
like
culling us.
They are the let's call them whatever the creatures were called from Eternals. Right? They're there to get rid of life to bring in something maybe in the future.
Right. Yeah. Whatever it is. Yeah. They're there to like kill people.
Yeah.
This is obviously they don't say this. This is just what I'm gathering. The little tiny lore drops we've gotten over 3 films. I'm leading to believe that something sent them here to wipe out people.
Yeah.
Or at least wipe out most of them to make it easy for them to get here. That's just my opinion. I don't know. Whatever the facts may be. But that's what it is. Anyway, so back to them. He gets the meds, comes back, sees them eating this stuff. Him gets the cat, gets out of there alive. They get back, they go to the pizza place. Oh, the pizza place burned down. So sad. So they go to this like jazz club that her dad played at before they went to the pizza place, which is almost as good. So they go to the jazz place. The dude ends up finding like this crappy pizza,
99-cent slices,
like, yeah, like a corner store, or sorry, bodega as they call them in New York City. So they, you get the pizza. They're eating pizza. They're drinking. They're having a good old time.
Magic. Act.
Yeah. So at this point, they're like, just having fun. She's kind of like,
she's on her last.
Lived her last, right? Yeah. This is the last thing she wanted to do. Now she really's got done, right? So they're kind of like saying their goodbyes. Like he's about to leave, and right about then is like they get this big boat that comes by and starts hitting their air horn.
Right.
And there's people on board.
These things like noise. Let's make all the noise.
Well, I think they're hitting the noise so that 1, the people know the boat is there, and 2, they keep their focus on the boat because obviously they can't go in the water.
Well, I don't know if they knew that at that point in time.
Well, no, they definitely did because the military told them.
That's true.
Remember, I said day 2, they were helicopters above their heads saying they die in water.
Yeah.
So yeah, they should already have known that. And then, well, I guess I should have mentioned that Jimin Hansu is one of the people in the theater, and that he's also on this boat.
Right, because he's talking about there's...
So somehow this boat ends up on the island from the second.
because in the second one he said they dispatched 12 boats, but only 2 made it, and lo and behold, she's on one of those 2 boats.
Right. So
just to die 479 days later.
Right. So that happens. They basically make a plan like, okay, they're gonna get there, he's gonna go there. She basically gives him the cat, saying like, keep the cat alive, like, I'm on my way out, but you make it, you save the cat, you stay
and take
alive.
my sweater.
Yeah, and gives her the sweater, and then she puts on his suit coat. I don't know, I was confused. I guess that's just like a bonding thing. I don't know what was up with that. So anyway, he runs. She like starts smashing cars to set alarms off. Gets him barely enough time to jump in the water with the cat and get to the boat, and he gets out and survives. And then she goes and gets her iPod and listens to music in the street, and then a monster comes and kills her
on purpose. Yeah.
Well, she does it.
Yep.
On purpose. And then that's it.
That's it. I'll go with my first thoughts because obviously we couldn't rewatch this yet. This is the first time seeing it. I do like the fact they didn't focus on the Abbott family, that we focus on like the shit that would happen in New York City. And I think they show that really well. It's an interesting side story to see in this world because you have potential stories any part of the world for this franchise. You know what I mean? Eventually will we see, our Independence Day thing where they all get the cochlear implants and take down the aliens? Maybe.
Well, there was a point where the one lady was listening to the radio and she was like gathering all the information. Yeah. And she had a globe and she was marking all the places that they said infections happened, and it was everywhere. Yeah. It was the entire globe. They showed Africa, Russia, and all those places had. So yeah, it happened everywhere. It wasn't just like America. It was everywhere.
Yeah, so I mean, eventually, I think this franchise is going to go down that path and show the ending of the invasion. Day whatever, 10,000, not 10,000, but you know what I mean, like 1,000 or something, right?
Right.
But yeah, there's definitely a lot more room for stories here. Different people that weren't really as prepared as the Abbotts in New York City, because let's face it, if you had to evacuate New York, LA, or Chicago, and you're in there, you're fucked. No matter what. I think they determined how many hours take to get everyone out of Chicago. Like 12. It was an absurd amount of time.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, an evacuation you need. I mean, realistically, even if you have 24 hours, you're not going to
No,
get everybody.
no. So it's just interesting to me to see the different sides and different stories of people that aren't prepared in, you know, the one of the most heavily populated cities in America. So I did appreciate it for that. What were your first thoughts?
I mean, basically, it's not all a horror movie. I mean, it's like a a touching tale of like a terminal cancer patient getting her last wish, right? But it just so happens to be on day one of an alien
Right.
invasion. I mean, but it's like that's the main focus of the film is getting her and her last wish completed. The aliens are just there for the ride.
Right. And her accepting that not everyone's pieces of shit. And that guy over the, that situation got to care for her and know her. And she, even though she wanted to push everyone away.
Right. But again, not normal themes for a horror
No.
film at all. So, I mean, again, that was interesting that it's really not, it really doesn't feel like a horror movie. It feels like a drama that just so happens to happen in a horror universe.
Well, the first genre listed everywhere for this is drama, secondary horror.
Yeah. I mean, I believe it because it is. I mean, it's just a drama film that happens to happen in a horror universe. Yeah, there are some horror time. They get chased and they have to hide and stuff. I mean, there's deaths and blood and shit. That's for sure, but that's secondary to what the plot is.
Right. Do you want to do your highlights first?
Sure. I will say Frodo. I liked Frodo the cat. There's more to that on the other side.
There
of
is.
This.
There's a lot
But
to the other side.
I will say that was like the most trained cat I think I've ever seen.
Yes.
Which is, I mean, yeah, he's still a little goofy and squirrely, but I mean, it's cat. So,
yeah.
But like, it was probably the best trained cat I've ever seen. It did like what it was supposed
almost
to
like
do,
it wasn't a real cat.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I would say this movie has better noise management than the other two, as far as like what they can hear and what they can't hear. I would say this one did a better job managing that than the other two did. Because the other two, like I said, it was kind of sometimes they can hear stuff, sometimes they can't. This one was pretty consistent in what they can.
Right.
And whenever it got to the point where it was like, oh, they can hear your heartbeat or whatever, like other shit would happen. Because it's a huge fucking city, right? So like that level of shit didn't matter. Said, like if you're in a rural area, that's the only sound around. But if you're in the fucking city,
and they made the point that the average decibel of New York City is 90, which is a constant scream.
Well, I was saying even like when shit is happening and like cars and honking and all that shit isn't happening, it's still there's a lot more ambient noise.
Oh yeah,
in New York than there is out there. So, but I would say the noise management of what they can hear, what they can't hear, was better in this. I will say, I mean, like the concept of this is interesting. Like it's really a drama movie just set in a horror universe. It's interesting. I haven't seen that. I mean, I've seen it before, but it's been a while.
It's rare.
It's a rare thing that there probably should be more, but it's good. I thought the whole presentation was just a fresh kind of presentation. I liked the way everything was set up. I thought they really did a good job with bringing it all together, especially again with it being a drama story. Especially considering this is the third movie. Like if this was the first movie, it would be very easy for them to do because obviously you're building something. This is to do that in the third entry bold and fun, I guess. And the last one is going to be the cat survived. Now, when I first started watching this, I was like, this fucking cat is gonna die immediately. And like every time I was like, there it goes, there it goes, there it goes, and it fucking came back every time.
Well, yeah.
But it was very rare for a horror film to have an animal that we see in the beginning survive all the way to the end. Sometimes it's a little ridiculous with the shit this cat can fucking do,
yeah.
and like what the cat does and where it goes. I get that, but I'm saying I think it's a good thing that the cat survived the whole film,
like literally against all odds.
Because that's rare.
I agree. I thought the cat was either going to die or was going to cause someone to die.
Right.
Easily cause someone to die.
Right. I was like, because the animal is always the first fucking thing to die. And it was refreshing to see that the cat survived all the way to the end. As ridiculous as the cat is. Like I said, there's more cats on the other side here. But I thought it was interesting that it survived. But you can go.
You know, even though there's, you know, obviously with the first two, with the deaf daughter, we are able to get pure silence from her perspective. I think they did almost, I mean, let's face it, for anyone our age remembers, you know, 9/11 and, you know, people that were there and what the sounds were like, is, you know, that first meteor crash and that dust everywhere, like your eardrums are fucked for a while. And just the chaos that was there, I think that was a good way to have that silence there. You know what I mean? Just to put us as the audience into their shoes of what she would really not be hearing in the chaos that would, you know, ensue from it. So I did like that. I do think the aliens looked a lot better in this one. You know, I feel like the first two, while they look great, when they went into like their inner ear that connected to their brain and soft tissue and everything, I feel like it looked better in this one. It didn't feel as heavy fake CGI. So obviously they had more of a budget for this one. I think Lupita and Quinn, right? That's his name, right?
No
Eddie
idea.
Munson.
Yep.
I think acting wise, they both did spectacular. It was interesting to see, you know, the guy from the island, number 2 in this. That's the only way they can have it tied in, which is nice. And while we got new lore, we have no idea what the fuck they were eating. We have no idea what that stuff is.
Well, yeah, like I said, I don't know what it is, but it's the only kind of like lore we got. Other than that, they were just there.
Yeah. So, but and I will say this: if we think that they're just there to wipe out living life, you know, on this planet, you know, while they do decimate bodies, there's not a lot of body parts everywhere. So in my head, they are eating it still.
I mean, I don't know. We don't ever show them feeding.
Right.
The only time we saw them feeding was on the pumpkin thing.
Right. But I mean, like when we're going through and we see shoes and blood smears, and there's still generally not really bodies there.
Well, I think that's probably for rating reasons.
I mean, I understand that, but you can maybe evolve that. Like, yes, they can eat us, but they still need those pumpkin things for.
Maybe the pumpkins are like their drugs.
Maybe.
That keep them violent.
Possible. Well, that's what I got. I'll go into my little points. Yeah, that cat should not be alive. Hands down, it's dead multiple times. They were.
I don't know if the cat would have necessarily died, but I don't think the cat would have came back.
No, the cat had magical powers, to say the least. Like enough to follow someone and then get lost in the mix and then find his way back to his owner every single time. It was there's no way that's possible, I feel. There's no way in hell the cat's gonna be that quiet. I was really expecting the cat just to hiss at one.
Some cats are real quiet.
That cat made zero noise. Period.
It made a little meow in the beginning. That's when the one thing came through the door. That's why it did, because the cat was trying to meow at the door.
That's it. It was.
Yeah, but then the cat learned not to make noises, or else the big monster comes.
So what's interesting is if you watch the trailer, there was an old guy that was turning off a projection film. It was never in this movie.
Right. Like, again, I was like, oh, here's the scene from the trailer when the guy was going to turn off the generator. Yep. And he never showed up. But it was a different generator.
Yeah.
The generator that he turned off was smaller, and you didn't have to go behind it. It was just on the wall.
Where's that old guy?
Oh.
Yeah, he wasn't there at all. It's almost,
I have no
idea.
Almost
like they filled in the old man character with Alex Wolff. And that was it.
Well, the old man, the way that I get the gist that I got from watching the trailer is that they were in somewhere and hiding, and then that went off, and then he went to go shut it off, and he thought he got to it in time because there was no monster.
He's like, "Oh, good."
and then one came and got him anyway. But I got the feeling that they were like hiding out there. It was probably another deleted scene of them meeting another group of people and like hiding out with them for a short
I'm like, oh, they didn't see a show. Okay, this is the old man with the projection he's concerned about, right? No, it's a marionette. So it was the old man, the marionette person? No.
I don't know. I don't know what
something happened.
Story branch that was on. Yeah, it was on some story branch that got cut.
So okay. The big twist of this movie that I think as soon as you found out that she's in hospice, it became abundantly clear she's going to sacrifice herself.
But she didn't.
I mean, but you know what I mean? Like she's not going to live through this.
Right. But I was like for sure that, okay, because at the end when she's smashing windows and setting off car alarms, and then she gets to like the end of the row of cars and realizes there's no more cars and all the alarms have stopped and they're now chasing the guy and the cat, I thought for sure she was going to start screaming. Yeah. I was like, that's okay. This is how she sacrifices herself. And I was like very surprised when she did not do that.
Yeah.
Like she just like watched him almost die. And she literally could have done something and she didn't. Yeah. And now I thought that was very strange. Yes. That like we knew she was going to die anyway. I knew she was going to sacrifice herself because again, she wasn't even bothering to go with it. Like why wouldn't she give them more time? She had the ability to. It was weird.
And then I'm going to say the overarching thing that just doesn't make sense about these aliens as a whole is they hear noise, they go attack it. As soon as something else makes noise, they immediately stop what made the first noise and go after the next noise. They're powerful enough to rip everything apart. They would just continue till they get it and then go after the next noise.
Well, again, that chain eventually stops.
Yeah.
Something makes noise, another thing makes noise, another thing makes noise. Again, we could go a billion times down that chain. Once you kill the billionth thing, the next one you go after. Like, and literally you keep going down that chain. That's what they do.
Yeah.
Like trying to go after the biggest, loudest sounds that they can. That's why they're all chasing the boat and the fucking helicopters and shit, because they're trying to get the big sound.
Yeah, and then the new lore of how allergic they are to water.
Again, yeah, it's contradictory to what we saw in the first one. I mean, it's because the first one, it just like slips under the water. It's underwater for like minutes.
Yeah.
And it's fine. I don't know. I think, the second one really brought in they drown. They don't know how to swim. And this one is just like, oh, they just straight up die.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay.
Yep. Apparently they don't know that about themselves.
Right.
All right. That's why I got what are your low points?
I'm gonna say whoever was in charge of continuity was terrible at their job. Because there's multiple scenes where like she's running down the street. Cat is nowhere to be seen. Cat is not running next to them. Cat is not in her arms. Cat is not in his arms. And then they cut away, show a monster, cut back to her, and now she's holding the cat. That happens all the time. Like it's gone, then it's there, then it's chasing them, then it's not there, then she's holding it, then it's on the ground, then she's holding the leash, and then she's carrying it. Like it's literally every other scene, the fucking cat is like teleporting.
It's a magical cat.
So like, yeah, I was like, dude, fucking, do they not have a person that knows where the cat was last scene? It's like every time. I mean, yeah, the food thing, we don't know what the fuck the food is. Like, I that's great that you're giving us some lore, but like, what the fuck? Like, at least tell us what it is. Or like show that they don't eat people but eat this stuff or something, but we don't get a clear answer of anything. Like, we're 3 movies in. Give us something. Yeah. Right? Give us something. Fucking even Cloverfield gave us something.
Oh yeah.
And the other thing that I didn't like is they did not show one person fighting.
Nope.
Not one. Not one guy with a handgun. I mean, yeah, they would not have done well. I'm not saying they would have won or done any damage, but not one person
in New York.
Back. Right. I'm saying in New York, there was thousands of people getting slaughtered in the street, and all they're doing is screaming and running. Not one person tried to fight. I'm like, that's fucking just unreasonably, like there's no way America would, some fucking asshole would not be shooting an AR-15 out of a window.
Easily.
You know what I mean? There's no fucking way that would, no way. Anyway, so the walking in large groups, like, I don't understand what you thought was going to happen. Like, I don't care if you're fucking like doing baby steps. If you're in like a group of 5,000 people, that is like a fucking thunderclap every time you baby step. Yeah. Like, I don't know what you thought was going to happen. When you're walking in a giant group like that, yeah, you're going to die. Especially if things are going after noise. Just because you're not talking doesn't mean they can't hear you. And then the people just like plain old screaming. Like, as soon as one became visible, they started screaming. Do you not know what happens when noise? What are you doing? And again, I have the same last one on my lows as I do on my highs, and that is the cat survived.
Yeah.
Because it's great that the cat survived, because they usually don't. But 2, in this fucking film, the cat, dear God, the cat was underwater.
Hold your breath, Frodo.
Times. Yeah, like, I mean, cats don't. I mean, I'm not saying the cat should have died from drowning. They weren't underwater that long. I'm just saying, like, they don't understand to hold their fucking breath. You know what I mean? Like, that's dangerous, dude.
And
like,
it was calm the entire time.
Well, I mean, yeah. Like I said, that was the best trained cat ever seen. But yeah, it was yeah. So yeah, the cat survived is good, but the cat survived is also bad, because it was like whoever made this was obviously like a fucking super cat loving person, and it was very obvious and very kind of cringy, I would say. But,
oh yeah, like I said, there's no way the cat should have survived.
Correct.
Oh,
that's all I.
All right. So number shushes out of 10. I will go first. I think I need to watch this again, for sure. It was still, I think, a pretty good movie. So right now, I will give this 7.75. How about you?
Yeah, I'll agree. And I thought the presentation was a bit better than the other ones, but it's a lot different of a presentation. I mean, it's kind of unfair to compare them, because they're really different, you know. But I just have to go over overall presentation, I guess, and I would say this one is better than the other two, and I'll give it a 7.
7. So maybe it'll go
7
down
shushes
as
out of
we
10.
rewatch it. But as of right now,
Well, this one wasn't that bad because, like, literally, it's day one. Like, what the fuck are you going to do? You don't even know what these things are. And as far as what rules they were given, they did follow them. So,
yeah.
I mean, again, yeah, is it dumb to go get pizza? But yeah. But I mean, dude, you're dying of fucking cancer. I'm not going to tell you what you should do with your last days.
Right.
You know what I mean?
All right. Anything else for this episode?
Nope.
All right. So, flying orbs, tall men, excitement. That's right. We are getting into a franchise that most have not seen past the first entry. Will we get our own zombies, or will we run out of time at the funeral home? So next week begins our 2-part series on the Phantasm franchise. I think you said you haven't seen past the first one.
Correct.
It's been forever since I watched this franchise. So I'm excited to revisit it. And because we are prepping for a couple weeks from now, we are going to have a guest on our Conversations in the Void, and we are going to talk Phantasm to no end. So this is a way to get to this franchise.
No, there will be an end. There's going to be an end.
That's true. But you know what I mean. Yeah, and it's interesting because we may be sponsoring this movie too. So until then, remember, we watch bad movies, so you don't have to. And this has been Graveyard saying, have you checked on the children?
This is Salem saying, long live the new flesh.